Hi everyone, welcome to It's Canon, a series of reviews where we take a look at Bionicle models that are either fan-made or never got an official set release. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Frost Beetle, originally designed in 2004 by Daniel Muller for the Rahi Building Challenge, where it was declared one of the winners and became canonized within the Bionicle story. Before we get into the review, quick disclaimer, any or all of these Canon models are open to inaccuracies. I try my best to build these as accurate to the source pictures as possible. If you want to build this model, instructions will be linked in the description below. So without any further ado, on to the review! The Frost Beetle is a Rahi created by the Makuta using viruses and liquid protodermis, where it makes its residence in Metru Nui, near the Knowledge Towers in Ko-Metru. Here the creatures are dangerous and extremely territorial. Now this territorial attitude is not because they're trying to create a comfortable habitat for themselves, but rather they are constantly trying to force their way into the knowledge towers and consume the memory crystals. The reason they do this is not fully understood, though it has been theorized that the beetles can gain the knowledge stored within the crystals. They also seem to have some form of hive mind, so if one beetle gets smarter, so do the rest. This combination of possibilities seems to put forth the idea that the beetles are quite intelligent, equivalent to a Matoran, and are actively seeking to gain more knowledge. Lastly, the Frost Beetle made its debut appearance within the Rahi Beasts book, where Norik talks about how it might be better to let the Visorak eradicate the beetles, since Metru Nui and subsequently the Knowledge Towers are completely unguarded. Norik also asks what kind of damage the beetles could cause, now that they're able to access the knowledge towers without any hindrance. The Frost Beetle is also one of the few canon Rahi that made it into other Bionicle media, outside the Rahi Beasts book, that being the Bionicle Heroes DS game, where it was one of the strongest enemies not only in health, but in damage output, able to one-shot you if you have not collected any of the health ruins. But the enemy also has a long windup, so you should be able to avoid their attacks fairly easily. Taking a look at the model, it's very messy, utilizing a lot of white torso pieces to create most of the build. Starting at the head, it's comprised of two Bow-Rock torsos on the top, a number of connectors underneath, which mount the face and mandibles, which is a Metru chest cover and these tooth pieces. The first set of limbs are also connected up here, and they are a number of arm pieces and connectors which end in a coat and claw. Moving back, there's two Mata torsos, some Nuva armor, Metru shoulder pads, lift arms, and a set of legs, which is a reversed Rakshi leg and a Rakshi foot. Moving back again, the back of the build is primarily built around a Rakshi torso and spine assembly. There's also two sets of limbs here. The legs are probably the least interesting of the two, just being Nuva legs with some feet attached and some kicker pieces, as the feet. The arms though are another Rakshi leg assembly with connectors and a bunch of weapon pieces on the end, including crystal spikes, katanas, and ski pieces. Now these limbs I find quite interesting, because the book seems to depict them as bladed arms on the beetle, but if posed right, they can actually look like wings. Now, I don't know if this is a mistake on the photographer's part or an intentional design, but I do find it quite interesting. Alright, articulation wise, this thing is weird. So, I'm just gonna get these arms out of the way. They have their own set of ball joints. So, you get two ball joints in here, so the head can move up and down that far. And can't really shift, or it can shift side to side just a little bit because there's another set of ball joints right here. Focus. There it is. So there's two ball joints there. There's a hinge, so you get a tiny bit of wiggle, but that's about it. There's a ball joint here, so the whole upper section of the body can rotate. And then you have a ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, ball joint here on this first arm, so you can get wherever you want with this. I prefer to tuck it in so it looks somewhat natural, or somewhat like a bug, like extra mandibles, but it can totally be other arms. I'm not really sure. There's also a hinged ball joint back in here, so the head assembly can move down that far, up that far, and that's it. Then You get this first set of legs, which you get a ball joint, hinged ball joint, so all the crazy rotation, knee bend, all that good stuff right there. Nothing too crazy. Can't really go out just because of the way the hinge is, so that's as far as you get, but you can get down and up and all that. The main part of the torso here, you don't get anything. Like, it is a solid chunk per se. It's all connected tightly and there's no wiggle room. You don't get any gear function here with the Rockshi torso because of these Metru shoulder pads. I can kind of appreciate that they found a way to lock it, but you know, it's all right. And then you get a ball joint at this the back set of arms. You get a ball joint, hinge ball joint, ball joint, ball joint. So you get all kinds of crazy movement wherever you want. Yeah, it's not really great because the way the connector is, you don't really get much forward movement. It's a little annoying, and it's a really long arm, so it does get in the way. But if you pose it right, it can look like a wing to some extent. Like, that looks like a set of wings, in my opinion. But when splayed out, they're just a gnarly, wacky set of arms. And then at the back legs here, you just get a ball joint and ball joint. So it's not crazy. Forward that much, back that much, full rotation, out all the way, that good stuff. And it's a foot on a ball joint. So yeah, this thing is very weird to pose. It's very awkward, very weird. A lot of hinges and stuff. It's very easy to make it look like a mess. But yeah, there's the articulation. Alright, issues with this model. This thing is extremely gappy and very weirdly put together, often having elongated axles sticking out or exposed areas that just make the model look incomplete. But I do want to mention, if posed right, this model actually does look somewhat coherent, such as with the arms that I mentioned earlier. So if you do pose this a certain way, it actually looks kind of like a more coherent build. Part of me wonders if this is originally how the designer intended the Rahi to look, but LEGO mangled the model during the photography process. It is a strong possibility, as we have seen this occur with other Canon models. But this is all speculation on my part that can be backed up to some degree. But that said, the issues do still stand. It's gappy and looks incomplete. Alright, size-wise, the Frost Beetle comes in at approximately 30.5 centimeters or 1 foot. And height-wise, at the top of the spines here, it's about 17 centimeters or 6 3/4 inches. Comparison-wise, here it is next to a Mata, a Metru, and an Anika. So it is a fairly large Rahi. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it is decently sized. And here it is next to my previous review, the Yari, which in terms of body size, it's about the same. So, yeah, it's about the same size, not much bigger. The Yari's just flat. And of course, it wouldn't be a Canon model review for me if we didn't compare this thing to the one and the only Tatarak. Now, if you want to build this model for yourself from scratch, some of the more noteworthy parts that may be harder to find or more expensive are the Metru chest cover. This part has become a little bit more rare, mainly thanks to other more visually interesting Canon models. But from what I could find at the time of this recording, this piece is starting to make a bit of a comeback, and maybe a little more common again. The black pin axles. I've said it once and I'll say it again, I hate these things. Thankfully there's only 2 used here, but when you're doing what I'm doing, they really start to add up. And that's it. The rest of the build is actually really easy to get parts for, and none are all that rare either. I was able to build this quite quickly, and the only reason I didn't finish it sooner was because I completely forgot about it in my bin. Which, I think says something about the build itself. Overall, the Frost Beetle is one of those Canon Rahi that you could probably pass up on. It's not the greatest, and it's very visually awkward. The posing of this thing is also kinda crucial to make it look somewhat like something. Unless you're a completionist, I wouldn't recommend adding it to your collection. It just doesn't have enough going for it to be worth investing the parts to build it. Anyway, that's the Frost Beetle. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all my latest videos. And with that, I'm Legend, and I will see you all next time.